Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum for the Ward 2. My name is Meredith Fine. I'm an attorney in Gloucester, and I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce's Government Affairs Council. And I'm introducing our moderator for this evening, Bob Visnick. Bob grew up on Cape Ann. He's been an attorney for more than 20 years. He is currently Rockport's town moderator and a past president of the Rockport Rotary Club, and he is also a member of the Cape Ann Chamber's Government Affairs Council. He has served his country as a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force Judge Advocate General's Corps, and he will be the moderator for tonight's event. It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Bob.
Thank you so much, Meredith. Welcome and good evening to all of you. This evening there will be two debates. The first one is the Ward 2 candidates, Joseph Giacalone and Barry Pett. Prior to your arrival, we worked through some of the ground rules, and we had a very elaborate coin flipping ceremony. And as a result of that, Joe will be the first to answer the first question, and Barry's going to make the first closing statement. There will be no opening statements of the candidates. The order of answering the questions will go back and forth, since there are two candidates this evening. And at some point during this forum, the candidates will have an opportunity to pose a question one to the other. We hope to have 5 to 7 questions and a 1-minute closing statement. I do have a whole bevy of additional questions should the opportunity permit. The candidates will have up to 90 seconds to answer the question. And please, if you would, silence your cell phones before we have an elaborate security force outside. Candidates will have 90 seconds to answer the question. Kerry will have time placards and will let the candidates know when there are 30 seconds left, 10 seconds left, and when they must stop. The candidates will also have up to 30 more seconds for a follow-up comment after both have given their initial answers. We will get started now, and I anticipate that we will finish at 6:15 and give the maddening throngs a time to depart and have a new crowd for the 6:30 debate. Gentlemen, are you ready? Okay, Joe, this first question goes to you. I know that when I entered public life, my spouse said, "What, are you crazy?" And I had to explain why I was doing this. So what I would like you to do is to tell everybody why you entered into this race and give essentially your elevator speech, what it is that you have to offer to the city of Gloucester.
Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you for the Chamber for hosting this event and Gloucester Stage Company for the venue. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm crazy. You just said it. I'm absolutely crazy. I've lived through political life through my family, pretty much my whole life. Every time that I've run, the first signature on my nomination papers is my wife. As long as she signs up, then we go ahead forward. I always ask her first. I said, if you don't want it, don't sign it, and we're done. I'm a graduate of the Gloucester school system. I also went to Salem State, where I earned a degree in political science. I also minored in music. As I said, I've grown up in a political family. You may remember my father, John Giacalone, who was a seven-term city councilor. So it's in my blood. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I've grown up in Ward 2 in Gloucester my whole life, and I just want to help the people that I've grown up with, and I want to see people prosper in this town.
Thank you. Barry?
Thank you, Bob, and again, thank you to the Chamber, to the stage company and to Studio 1623 for having us all here this evening. I'm a lifelong Gloucester resident, other than that time while I was away in college and in the military. And I've been through Gloucester Public Schools, and I was the last cadet colonel of the ROTC, mandatory ROTC program in Gloucester. So I started then in high school and doing different things in the community. And I've always participated since then. After I served in the military, I came back to Gloucester. I spent 28 years on the Economic Development Industrial Corporation, serving the city, where we developed out our 2 industrial parks in an environmental way, and bring in over $10 million a year in revenue to the city. No longer there. I still do a lot of other committees, Fish Box Derby, the Fisherman's Memorial Service. I'm the president and founder of the Gloucester Fund, and I'd like to continue that service to the city now. If you could give me my vote, your vote for Gloucester Ward 2 Council. Thank you.
Thank you. From where I'm sitting, I'm hearing an echo out there. Can you tell me if everything's okay microphone-wise? We're good? Okay. We'll start with Barry on this question. Gloucester's economy is becoming increasingly reliant on visitors and the dollars they spend at our inns, restaurants, shops, and attractions. Local room and meal tax revenues are a significant part of the city's budget. Please give us your views about the city government's role in supporting Gloucester's visitor-based economy.
I think over the years, Gloucester is known as a fishing community and an arts and cultural center, and yes, a visitor center. But that's become increasingly more the case. Visitors come. The city of Gloucester is working very hard to welcome those visitors. Those are dollars that add to the bottom line of how we can run the city so that our residents can afford to stay here, to live here, etc. We have a new harbor master and visitor center coming in. The chamber works with Discover Gloucester, the DMO, working together to bring the people in. And additionally, now we have with the new tax on the B&B type rentals in people's units, we're bringing in a little more extra money in, and yet those people that are owner-occupied don't have to participate in that, so I think that's a much fairer way of doing it. It's very important to bring economic development, and including in that economic development is our tourist business.
Sure, anything that the government can do to help foster tourism is a positive. One of the things that we can do is cultural districts. That brings a lot of people into town. It gives local artists tax break on things that they make and they sell. That's one way to boost the cultural and tourism. Things like you mentioned, like the hotel. Well, when those things come up, then give them a favorable ruling. That's all. I'm sorry.
All righty. Joe, this next question, we'll start with you. Ward 2's boundaries encompass Gloucester's central downtown commercial district from Railroad Avenue to the inner harbor. If you are elected as Gloucester's next Ward 2 councilor, what will you do to ensure a vibrant and thriving downtown?
Well, excuse me. As a ward councilor, your bread and butter is constituent service. It's very important to get out there and find out what the residents, what the business people, what their concerns are, what their issues are, what their needs are. So one thing that I will do is I will be open for communication as much as humanly possible. I will hold not just ward meetings, I will hold neighborhood meetings, because every neighborhood has their own unique set of issues and concerns. My door is always open, my phone, will always get back to you if you leave a message, text me, reach me via email, Facebook, whatever. I will always get back to you. You may not like the answer, I may not have the answer for you, but I will help you get that answer. Working with, and on that note,
Weather's pretty bad tonight, isn't it?
I didn't mean it. So working with the administration and other agencies, we can work towards prosperity for Ward 2 and the rest of the city. Hurry up before the roof falls down.
I'm not sure what that was all about. Anyway, Ward 2 is rather unique. I think it's the most diverse in many ways, physically, culturally, economically. It goes on the water side from the new GMGI building all the way down to the fort. It goes all the way up to Gloucester Crossing. It goes up Washington Street on the downtown side, up to Grove Street and where Centennial Avenue is. Very diverse, includes our city government, our cultural center, our religious institutions, our museums, many of those. It's important to work together to continue to keep economic development going, and in this case, that's mostly going to be on the marine waterfront at this time. And we will also need to work with our downtown businesses very closely to see that they can continue to thrive in whatever way we can to go ahead and assist doing that. I will be there to do that, as well as, again, constituent services. It's been something I've been doing for over 15 years now, working with Senator Tarr. Thank you.
Any further rebuttal? We move on to the next question, and it's the questions that you get to ask to each other. And so we will start with Barry. You can ask a question to Joe, and vice versa.
Okay, how did you get that to do that during your
Secret.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you know when it's my turn.
The only question I would have is, would you give us some of your experience over the last, say, 10 or 15 years, again, working in the community, what things you have done to, to contribute to the city?
Sure. So I've been involved in city politics for a very long time. I am currently I'm sorry, can you hear me? I am currently I'm currently the chair of the Downtown Development Commission, which we are working with downtown and local businesses, try to have Main Street be a thriving Main Street. I've also, in the past, Ward 2 chair of the Democratic City Committee. We've done outreach with those folks as well.
You get to answer your own question.
Oh, I thought he was going to ask me a question.
He is going to.
Oh, he's going to
yes.
afterwards, okay. Again, I work on many things in this community. I am the president and co-founder of the Gloucester Fund. We've raised over $3 million for different causes here in the city, of which we passed on 100% of every one of those. We've worked on things such as our veterans and troops, City Hall restoration, fire or cancer victims, or many other causes. I've been a member of the Fishermen's Memorial Service Committee for almost 20 years. I was a member of the Fishbox Derby Committee for about 20 years. I also work with Senator Bruce Tarr's office. That's been my full-time job for over 15 years, and work with constituent and services and community outreach, so the administrations and other department heads in the different communities of his 17 community district, and I've worked very closely with all the departments here in Gloucester during that time. And so I hope to be able to continue to do that. Thank you.
Okay, your turn to ask the question.
Barry, as you just stated, you are involved in many things in the community, from the fireworks to the Fisherman's Memorial, and you just rattled them off, and we're proud of you, and I'm proud of you. I guess my question is, with all that work that you do you think that you have time to do the job as a ward city council?
Do I have the time? I often think I don't have the time for half of the things I'm doing, but I keep on saying yes to those who ask. I'm looking at retiring from working for Senator Tarr sometime this coming year, and that was one of the primary reasons that I'm looking at continuing. I'm no longer on the EDIC. I'm no longer on the GRA. And those were things that took up some of my time working in the city. And when I retire from working for Senator Tarr, that's why I would like to be able to spend that time continuing to contribute here to the city of Gloucester.
Okay, time allocation.
As far as time to do the job, absolutely. I do work in Beverly. I work very early hours, so I'm home very early in the day. I have a day off in the middle of the week, so I have plenty of time to answer calls, make calls, and contact constituents over their issues, listen to their problems, meet with whoever I would need to, meetings, and whatever else I would need to do.
All right, we will start with Joe on this one. Massachusetts is one of only 2 states requiring a supermajority, 2/3 vote to make zoning changes. What is your position on Governor Baker's proposed legislation, House Bill 3507, an act to promote housing choices? Specifically, what is your position on the provision authorizing municipalities to adopt zoning changes by a simple majority? And if you wish, you can talk generally about zoning as a way to influence housing.
I think that any way we can make housing easier to obtain is a good thing. I think zoning is certainly one way we can do that. Streamlining permitting is another way we can help do that. Obviously, affordable housing, this may be a question that's going to come up, but it's a very important topic, and it's always going to be an important topic. If we can help people that have units that are not up to code, that they can either do zoning or permitting to get them in the code so they can rent them. Again, we can add to housing stock, that's always a good thing. If we can provide more affordable housing, of course, that's another good thing.
I think on the local level, where we have administration and a legislative body, and that's what I call the city council, I think the administration is the best to be able to let us all know how those they control or they appoint boards such as the zoning board, board of appeals, planning board. They appoint the members, etc. They can guide us more than anything else. The city council can take their positions and can make votes. I would like to see more affordable housing in the community. And when I say affordable, I mean workforce type housing. So those people who are born here, who've grown up here, who are working here, those people can afford to live here. And if we need to make zoning changes to make that more affordable to happen, then I'm all for that. But we absolutely need to increase our affordable/workforce housing in the community.
Additional time? All right, Barry, we're starting with you on this one. The Gloucester City Charter serves as a kind of constitution for our city's government. It has not had a comprehensive review in over 30 years. And this year's citizen effort to put a charter commission vote on the November ballot fell short by a few hundred signatures. Do you agree or disagree that a charter review is necessary? And if there were a charter review, what would be your top priorities for review and potential revision?
The effort that was put forth this year, and it was done again prior to this, I think about 8 years ago, again, fell just short. It takes thousands of votes to go ahead and do that. I wish it had succeeded. In that, I think a charter review is important. I wish it was an automatic thing, whether it be every 20 years, etc. And it's not that there are specific changes or that I have an idea of a specific change. The idea is to look at the charter and find out what it is that's working well, what it is that's not working well. Then we can decide whether we need to make changes. But the review, I think, should actually happen about every 20 years or so.
I wholeheartedly agree that a charter review is necessary. I applaud the efforts of those who try to get signatures this time. Ruth Pino really worked hard, and I'm sorry that it came up a little short. Like Barry said, a charter review is just that. It reviews the charter. It sees, they'll figure out some things that may need to be changed. Maybe some things don't need to be changed. One of the things I think they could look at is the term of the mayor. I think 2-year term for a mayor is kind of ridiculous. I think the head of the city should have more time to put policies in place and govern. Also, city council, that you may want to see if you stagger at large and ward councils. Maybe that would work. I don't know, but that's what a review would look at. There are things in the charter that most of us probably never heard of. There are things that maybe we should be doing that we're not. One thing is the student government day. That's in the charter. Every year that's supposed to happen, and for whatever reason that fell by the wayside. This past year it happened again. I think that's fantastic. I think we need more civic involvement with our students. It gives them a sense of community, and maybe it gives them a little sense of where they may want to go with their careers.
Additional time?
Well, you want to be on that student government day?
Sure. Absolutely, as the Ward 2 councilor.
Okay.
Okay, this one starts with Joe. In April of 2010, the City of Gloucester City Council voted to authorize the eminent domain taking of the infamous I-4C2 parcel for $1.5 million. To date, there are no redevelopment plans for that parcel. And currently, the parcel does not bring in enough annual revenue to even cover the debt payments on the money borrowed to finance its purchase. Do you want to see that parcel developed? And if so, how?
That's a question that's been dodging the city for a very long time. I would love to see that parcel developed. I don't know myself what the best use of that land would be. I think we need to work as a community to find what that may be. If we need to sell it to someone that has the perfect idea, or maybe we can brainstorm together to figure out what goes on there. I think for the time being, a parking lot is not the best use of it, but at least it's something. They have their movie night during the summer. Again, at least it's being used for something. It's not sitting there idle. I think for whatever reason, it's been an issue for a very long time. And if the right plan would come along, I definitely could support it.
An issue I'm very familiar with. I came on board and joined the Gloucester Redevelopment Authority after the debacle some 25 plus years ago. And as the chair, I spent many years in court making sure that we had done the right thing. While we were in court defending our action, or the action of the GRA before I joined. I worked and was able to secure a grant from Coastal Zone Management to develop and build the dockage from the commercial dockage facility that's down there. That was one of the best things that was able to come out of that. We also spent money, thousands of dollars, but we developed a plan that if the city does want to do something, we have a design in place that that will allow you to redo the dockage facility, still keep 11 spots there, and give 85 feet of waterfront to the I-4C2 parcel to allow that to be a true marine industrial parcel.
Additional time? Okay. Barry, do you support the rezoning of any portion of the Fort neighborhood or modifications of the current designated port area boundaries and restrictions? Please explain the rationale for your positions.
Okay, are you talking about doing something in the future? Is that what the question?
Yes.
Okay. I think the city needs to constantly look at the DPA as a whole, just as we need to look at our zoning for the marine industrial waterfront. Times have changed in the sense of the fishing industry is different than it used to be. And it's also very difficult for businesses to be able to develop their watershed area, the dockage, etc., because of all the regulations. I'm not saying that we should take anything out, any area out. We've already taken some parts of East Gloucester out, and hopefully those are giving us positive results. I don't know, we'd have to look at each area if there was a request, but we have thriving marine businesses, and we have some that are struggling, and we have new businesses such as GMGI that are doing very, very well. And maybe the future. And maybe with the new Harbor Master Station and visitors dockage, there may be some changes that are not necessarily down at the fort, but in other parts of the harbor. But we need to look at all of that on a constant basis with an open mind.
I'm open to having the discussion with businesses and residents on the waterfront to see what their needs are, what their desires are, what their concerns, what they're afraid of. I don't think that, well, it's actually a state designation, so we couldn't just change it on our own, but I would support talking to those down there and seeing what it is that they need. Not telling them what they need, but asking them what they need. Perhaps we could modify it to marine industrial to give the city a little more control over what goes on there, and that would help the businesses and, again, the residents. I wouldn't want to see a condo popping up every 10 feet, but again, something that aligns with the character of the neighborhood.
Okay. So, Gloucester is a very old community.
It is.
And in fact, in 2023, it's going to celebrate its 400th anniversary. I would like both of you to project forward to 2043 and assume that you've been incumbents for 23 years, and you're going to tell the crowd what your proudest accomplishments have been. And it looks like we're starting with Joe on that one. Project into the future and let us know.
Well, Barry and I, reaching back from the grave, are going to tell you, or I'm going to tell you, that as an incumbent for how many, 40 years? What was an incumbent?
23 years.
23-year incumbent, that's a pretty good record.
Not bad.
I hope that as an incumbent, if should I become an incumbent, I hope that people can say he really cared about the people in his ward. I hope that they're able to say that we reached out to him, he reached out back. He may not have been able to answer everything for us, but he was able to help us figure out who we need to speak to or what could be done, or maybe the answer was you can't get whatever it is you wanted. But he came back to us and didn't leave us hanging, and he really cared about what the concerns that we tried to address with him. And 23-year incumbent, I think I would get a gold star anyway, right?
At least a watch.
I thought, Joe, somewhere along the line that whatever happened was going to be part of your thing from the 400th here. I don't know. I am on the steering committee for the 400th, and I'm one of only 2 people on that committee that also worked on both the 375th and the 350th. And my dad, who's been gone almost 45 years, was one of the grand marshals of the 350th. And both my father and mother gave much to this city. And I've continued to contribute. My brothers have continued to contribute to the city in many ways. And I would like to continue to contribute. And if there's a legacy, if we're talking 24 or almost 24 years from now, it would be that I've contributed in a positive way, whatever that may be, to the community.
Thank you. And by the way, I'm on the 450th committee. I just want to let you know.
Well, you want a rebuttal on that?
On October 3rd, the School Building Committee voted unanimously to select the Veterans Memorial Elementary School site as the final location for a new consolidated school serving 440 students from the East Gloucester Elementary and Veterans Memorial Elementary School communities. Gloucester's Chief Administrative Officer has stated that some of the funding for this project would require a debt exclusion override. The Massachusetts School Building Authority has accepted this proposal into eligibility, which would potentially reimburse 59% of qualifying expenses. Would you pay the other 41%? Oh, that's not the question. Do you support the school consolidation, and would you support a debt exclusion override if needed to help fund the proposed new elementary school?
I believe our children are our future, and we must continue to give them the best we can. I think we all would rather have neighborhood schools, but the school committee looked at things and determined that consolidation was where we needed to go in order to meet today's requirements for all these other positions and services that are provided, that if you had them in individual neighborhood schools, you could not afford them in each and every school. So we're going with consolidation. The School Building Authority will reimburse covered expenses. It's only it's not some of the expenses like the expenses, say in this case, to house the students at another school, St. Anne or wherever, for that time. The decision for the debt exclusion will be a citywide decision. The decision needs to be whether we support our children. The best part about the debt exclusion is it does end. It has a finite date. It doesn't go on ad infinitum. I don't know how we're going to be able to afford to do it, but I do believe that we need to move forward, or 20 years from now, we'll be much further behind.
I agree. It's important for our children to have first-class building to learn in. I also know it's important for our teachers that work very hard. My sister Carrie is here. She's a teacher at Ward 2. They do a fantastic job, teachers and staff. It would be they could do an even better job if they didn't have a lot of workarounds, and it's also a safety issue, especially at the East Gloucester School. There's all kinds of safety issues. Again, I agree with Barry. I think the neighborhood schools were are a better ideal choice. That's not what we have now. The school committee has decided they're going to go with consolidated schools. I think the two final sites that they had to pick from, neither of them are ideal. Green Street Field, I'm so glad they didn't choose that. That was absolutely the wrong choice to have a school there. The veteran site, not much better. Traffic is going to be a humongous issue. You have Webster Street, you have French Street are going to be so clogged. Eastern Avenue has the traffic lights right there. And then there's the issue of Meadows Field. Light Up Meadows Field group, they worked so hard to get the field the way it is and the new lights. And 2 years later, they're told, well, it's going to go away. Well, I hope that it doesn't go away. I hope that the administration comes through and actually moves it someplace in a suitable place and is rededicated, because all that hard work shouldn't be for nothing. Oh, I'm sorry, and the debt exclusion, I support the city should vote on it. I'm not sure where I stand until I see a little more information. Now that there's a final site picked, I want to see what the figures look like for that.
Just very quickly on Meadows Field, when the Light Up Meadows group started, it was through myself with the Gloucester Fund that they started raising their money. And we let them know that there was an issue with a deed versus a dedication on the field. Sadly, this has not worked in their favor, but we have a commitment from the administration that the field and the dedication to Private Meadows will stand in a new location.
Thank you.
May I?
I'll give you the time. Sure.
And on the debt exclusion, I think it's important that the city vote on it. I know John McGrath has spoken during the campaign about not having a special election, but rather put it on the regular election. It costs a lot of money to have an election, and if you're having it for one issue, it's kind of a big waste of money. And two, you won't get as big a turnout as you will for the regular election. So I think that should be on the ballot, but on a regular election, not a special election.
Okay, we have time for perhaps one or two questions from the audience. And I would ask that first we look at the general audience and not necessarily any public officials. And I'm going to hand the microphone over to Ken Reel, who will choose from everybody raising their hand who might have a question for the candidates.
Hi, my name is Annette, and I would just like to ask the candidates, with the tourism growing as fast as it is here in Gloucester, where do you propose in the downtown area for a parking garage? And would you support a parking garage somewhere in the downtown area?
Thanks, Annette. I think a parking garage makes sense. I haven't really thought about where I would like to see one. Obviously, the downtown area, you're close to the waterfront. You don't want to build it so people can't enjoy the waterfront. I am definitely open to the discussion of having a parking garage, and I'd love to hear ideas of where people would like to put it.
Urban planning was my major in my college degree. And I've had discussions with the current Ward 2 Councilor about many of these things and issues downtown in Ward 2. And I do believe that we need a parking garage, and I believe we need to update our whole parking system overall. And where it would go, I don't have that answer. There are possibilities in the parking lot between Fitzhenry Lane and the police station. There has been discussion of the YMCA, the current YMCA location. I personally would rather see that as affordable housing, workforce housing. But I would definitely think there is a need, and we need to keep the employees of the businesses that are downtown off of Main Street so that the shoppers or tourists or whoever it may be can go ahead and have access to the parking areas.
Additional time?
Bless you. Bless you.
Yes, bless you.
Anyone else?
All right. I'm going to give you both a few moments to gather your thoughts, and then we're going to start with Barry for the closing.
And how much time do we have? 26 minutes each?
You have 1 minute.
Wow.
Or Meredith will lasso you.
I'd like to see that.
We don't want to go there. Very briefly, I'm Barry Pett. I'm running for Ward 2 City Councilor. I'd like to represent all of Ward 2, the most diverse, demographically, economically, physically ward in the city. Demographically, with diverse residential neighborhoods, senior assisted living housing, mixed business and residences downtown, economically with mixed downtown business, waterfront marine businesses, the Beauport Hotel, our visitor tourist businesses, and physically with our government and cultural centers mixed with residents and businesses. I would like to work to continue our economic development, to bring revenue to the city, mostly on the marine waterfront, as our industrial parks are built out at this point for the most part. And I would like the city to continue to work rebuilding our schools, both in the best manner for our children and the best manner financially for the city. Thank you.
No pressure, but we will play music after 60 seconds.
You can play it during if you like. So, my name is Joe Gigaloni, and I'm running for Ward 2 City Council. As I said, I've been involved in city politics and issues for a very long time. Not just my dad's campaign, but campaigns that he was involved with before he ran for office. Campaigned for Nick Marvulis, campaigned for Bruce Toby, John Bell, then my cousin Aunt Margaret got involved. Then I jumped in and I said, I think I'd like to give a try to run for office. I've had 2 unsuccessful campaigns, one at large, one for the ward. Nobody likes to lose, but I learned a lot during that time. Each time I've learned how city issues and city government works, how it doesn't work. In talking to the residents, I've got a feel for what their concerns are, what their needs, how they want their lives to be affected. So given that, and the fact that I want to see my neighbors be able to stay here, live here, work here, raise their families here, I want to see the character of the neighborhoods maintained. So for that, I ask you for your vote on November 5th. I'm number 2 on the ballot, but you're all first in my heart. That was nice. Again,
Now I need a moment to compose myself.
Do you need a tissue?
Yes, I think I do.
I said they're first in my heart.
We have come to the end of this first debate. I would like to thank the candidates for giving of your time and your efforts. If I lived in this community, I would vote twice and vote for each of you, but they hardly let me out of Rockport. Again, thank you.
Vote off.
And thank all of you on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce.